Hello, I'm Oscar. I've chosen for you to hear and talk about the incident in the past. Among other things, I did not live with my father. According to my mother, he was so concerned about his career that he neglected our brothers. Before their divorce, the couple had 3 children together: my brother Peter, my sister Clara, and me. My mother said a lot of bad things about him and forbade us to remember this man. I did not understand him at all. I heard from others that my father was a police officer of the city, but compared to what my mother told me, it was very different. Anyway, we will always trust my mother and protect her. However, I was quite shocked because the divorce of my father was so not long that my mother took a strange man to our house to live together. He is Rufus, although a bit disappointed in my mother, but for a child who really wants to feel the affection of his father like us, soon all 3 brothers have good feelings about him. He was very nice, always taking good care of my mother and our 3 brothers. The strange thing was that he often went to work late at night and came back early in the morning. I felt at those times he looked very mysterious, but it doesn't matter because he's definitely a good person. Those were just my thoughts when I was a kid. I regret that I entrusted my mother's life to this man. A terrible thing happened when we grew up and started our working age. My older brother Peter loves me so much. His dream is to be a police officer. He is very determined with his choice. My sister Clara wants to be an actress. I really admire them. I always hope that we will be together forever. But that bad thing happened when Mr. Peter and Clara disappeared. My mother is a businesswoman, and she is on the verge of bankruptcy. Every day she always comes back in a bad mood, and even Rufus, my stepfather, always brings a frustrated face when he comes home. There was a time my mother and stepfather had an argument. I did not hear the story of the 2 of them, but my mother left with a teary face. I gingerly looked through the gap in front of my parents' room. My stepfather at that time looked very scary. The person I saw at that time was a completely different person. Back to my brother and sister's disappearance. One beautiful day, my brother Peter left a letter saying goodbye to me and had disappeared. I really miss him, the house. I asked Clara about my brother Peter, but she did not know. I asked my parents, and they said they didn't know. My parents were strangely calm, even though their son had been missing for more than a week. I was like crazy trying to calm down and waiting for Mr. Peter to come back, but for almost a month, he still did not reply to me. I heard from Clara, and her stepfather and brother had a very intense argument. Apparently, he did not allow brother Peter to become a police officer and instead made him listen to his arrangements. Father scolded him very badly. Then he packed up his stuffs and left. Nobody thought he was going to go and never came back. I was getting desperate when Clara continued to go missing. This time, she didn't even send a letter to me. Both the people I love and admire are now gone. I was very panicked. I was angry to ask my parents, but they both smiled and spoke as if there was nothing to worry about. At that moment, I came up with an idea, which was to hide in the room to listen to my brothers and sisters. After the dinner, my parents returned to the room to rest. I've not heard anything about my brother and sister. They all talked about the company's business plan. Then his stepfather whispered to his mother that he would save the company from this crisis. As long as his mother obeyed and cooperated with him, everything would be resolved smoothly. After they fell asleep, I waited for the opportunity to get out of bed and go back to my room. I was still determined to hide under the bed tomorrow. The next night I started to act again, but before I called my mom out from the room for dinner, I opened her mother's door abruptly. She looked very panicked and hurriedly took the diary and put it in the drawer. After I quickly swallowed the cup of rice, I quickly snuck into my mother. The curiosity about the notebook made me unable to self-control. Then I opened and read it. Do you know what secrets I have read? This is a confession diary, and a secret has been buried for several years has been brought to the light. My mother was the one who betrayed the father of our 3 brothers. She said that it was because of lacking of affection when my father was busy working overtime, and he had more work since his promotion. Uncle Rufus seduced my mother into adultery. During that time, she fell in love with Rufus. When my father finally found out, he accepted the divorce. He left very quietly, and despite my mother saying bad things to him, he did not have an explanation. It turned out that she had smeared our great father. It was her was the one who betrayed and led the other man home. I was extremely angry, but I had to calm down because I still wanted to find my brothers and sisters. I hurriedly closed the diary and hid under the bed. Not so long, the 2 entered the room. But this time I gained an important testimony of the whereabouts of my brother Peter and sister Clara. They were abducted, and the abductor was my stepfather and mother. It seems that my mother did not know anything. She was too trusting the bad man. My mother kept asking him about my siblings' situation, but he said that he could not contact it now. He put the company's interests out to explain to his mother. He said that he sent my siblings to study abroad and work for a famous businessman abroad. If my mother agrees, the company will have a big source of support to overcome this problem. Moreover, her children will be able to study abroad. A beneficial request, but I will never be fooled. It was more shocked that they also said they would continue to want to send me abroad to reinforce the power of the company. He wants to usurp all the possessions that my mother built. I tried to calm myself, suppressing hatred and waiting for them to fall asleep from the room. I went back to my room and expected the morning to alert the police. The next morning, I quickly picked up the phone to alert the police as soon as I woke up. In just a few more hours, and they will be here. I am relieved. But the thing was that stepfather and mother were very strange that day. They prepared food and a birthday cake to treat me. My mother told me a lot of things and gave me a bag and some money. The stepfather was standing behind and laughed contemptuously. I was panicked because I knew if the police didn't make it in time, I would be abducted. Then a quick black car came to pick me up. I did not want to go, so I struggled with them. Fortunately, the police have come. Unexpectedly, that police officer was my father. He saw his mother very shocked on his face. He asked me and the two guys what happened. My stepfather repeatedly rejected what I said and sent the police home. It was only when I gave my father the recording of that night that my father realized the problem and took both of them to the police station. After a few days of interrogation, the truth was finally revealed. My uncle Rufus is a human trafficker, taking advantage of the situation that my mother's company is staggering and trying to force our brothers and sisters to sell abroad and usurp their properties. Although my mother was tricked, she also joined, so she was arrested. My brother Peter and sister Clara fortunately had not been taken away, and we were finally reunited. In this incident, me and my siblings finally understood our father. We hugged our father and apologized for misunderstanding him all these years. Life is full of surprises. Have you ever misunderstood anyone? Please let me know in the comments.